Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at Ainos.
Ainos Incorporated.
Yeah, they're a healthcare company working on some really fascinating stuff like AI-powered testing and a new treatment.
Called Veldona.
Veldoni, right. What really caught our eye with Ainos, though, is Veldoni's potential for treating oral warts.
Especially in patients with HIV.
Exactly. It's a problem that can really impact someone's quality of life. We dug into some press releases and research summaries about Ainos. It's clear that oral warts are pretty common for people living with HIV.
Oh, yeah.
And treating them can be a real challenge, especially for people on antiretroviral therapy.
It's a tough situation. Antiretroviral therapy is essential for managing HIV, but it can make oral warts even more difficult to treat.
So it's kind of like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I mean, imagine dealing with these painful growths in your mouth.
And they can make even simple things like eating and talking incredibly difficult.
Not to mention the treatments themselves.
Right. The current options aren't exactly ideal.
Surgery seems to be the most common approach, but it can be really painful.
And often the warts just come back.
Ugh, so frustrating. There are other options like laser removal or cryotherapy.
But they have their own downsides, too.
Which brings us to Veldona. Now, interferon therapy isn't new, but Veldona is special because it's a low-dose oral interferon. So instead of getting injections,
You just take a pill.
much easier.
And potentially fewer side effects. Traditional interferon injections, while they work, can be pretty rough on patients.
So a low-dose pill could be a real game changer for people looking for relief from those oral warts. And Ainos already has some promising results from early studies of Veldona.
Yep. A pilot study and 2 phase 2 trials in the U.S.
77 patients total.
All HIV positive.
And they saw some really impressive reductions in oral wart surface area, over 75% on average.
Some cases saw a reduction of up to 99%.
It's incredible. Those early results are paving the way for a larger clinical trial in Taiwan.
Taiwan is a global hub for HIV management, so it's a smart choice for this kind of trial.
Absolutely. And conducting the trial in Taiwan is also more cost-effective compared to doing it in the U.S.
Ainos is all about efficiency.
They are. Another reason they chose Taiwan is because of National Taiwan University Hospital. It's a top-tier medical center that manages a lot of Taiwan's HIV cases.
So they have access to a large group of potential participants right there.
40 participants in total will be split into 2 groups. One group will receive Veldona, and the other group will receive a placebo.
For 24 weeks.
Researchers will be tracking how much the warts shrink, of course.
But also things like patient-reported outcomes.
And overall safety, too. They're taking a very comprehensive approach to really understand the potential benefits and risks.
And it's worth noting that Veldona has been granted orphan drug designation by the U.S. FDA for this particular indication.
What it means.
It means the FDA recognizes the potential of Veldona to address an unmet medical need.
And that comes with a whole slew of benefits for Ainos.
Tax credits, fee waivers.
And even potential market exclusivity later on. It's a really big deal.
So let's talk about those U.S. trial results for a minute. Those were impressive.
They were. What stood out to you? What do you think is important for our listeners to understand about them?
I mean, some people saw their warts almost completely disappear.
Almost completely?
99% remission.
99%? That sounds almost too good to be true. But were there any downsides? Like side effects?
Actually, the safety profile was pretty impressive. Serious adverse events were rare.
Good.
And most of them seemed to be related to just living with HIV, not really because of the treatment itself.
That's good to hear. Especially since some of those other treatments can be pretty harsh.
Yeah. Plus, we have to consider those patient-reported outcomes.
Yeah.
The sources don't give us all the specifics.
Right.
But they do say that most of the outcomes favored Veldona. So it seems like it really did improve people's quality of life.
That's what really matters at the end of the day. It's one thing to have a treatment that works in theory, but it's another thing entirely to have a treatment that actually makes a difference in how people live their lives.
Exactly. So these were still relatively small trials. The Taiwan trial is going to be really important for confirming these findings on a larger scale. But the data we have so far, definitely promising.
So let's talk more about that Taiwan trial. What's so important about it? What are the researchers hoping to learn?
Well, first of all, it'll involve a lot more people.
Right.
So we'll get more reliable data.
More statistically significant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And because it's being done in a totally different part of the world,
right,
it'll help us make sure that the treatment isn't only effective for a certain group of people.
So basically taking those initial results and seeing if they hold up in a bigger, more diverse group.
Right. And remember those secondary endpoints we talked about, like a 50% reduction in wart size and those patient-reported outcomes. The Taiwan trial is going to dig deeper into all of that.
Okay.
Give us a much more well-rounded picture of what Veldona can really do.
So let's say this Taiwan trial goes really well. What happens next for Veldona? What could this mean for people living with HIV?
Well, if the trial confirms that Veldona is safe and effective, it could totally change how we treat oral warts in HIV-positive people.
How so?
We could have a treatment that's easy to get, doesn't require surgery, and has minimal side effects.
Wow, that would be huge. No more painful surgeries, no more warts coming back, just a simple pill.
Imagine how much that would improve people's lives. They could eat and speak and smile without worrying about those warts.
It's not just about the patients themselves either. This could be a game changer for healthcare systems.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the cost savings. If Veldona really works, it could mean way fewer surgeries and other expensive procedures.
And that means
Those resources could be used for other important healthcare needs.
So we've talked about the problem, the potential solution, the encouraging results from the U.S. trials, and the exciting next steps in Taiwan. But I'm curious, why is this treatment specifically for people with HIV?
Right. So remember how we talked about antiretroviral therapy?
The treatment that helps manage HIV but can sometimes cause complications like oral warts?
Yeah. Exactly. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. A healthy immune system keeps the virus that causes oral warts, HPV, in check. But HIV weakens the immune system, which makes people more likely to get these kinds of infections.
So Veldona comes in and helps boost the immune system to fight off those warts.
Yep. And the fact that it's a low-dose oral interferon is really key here.
Why is that? What's the advantage of a low dose and taking it as a pill?
Well, traditional interferon therapy usually means higher doses given by injection, which can cause a lot of nasty side effects.
Oh, yeah.
By making a low-dose pill, Ainos is hoping to minimize those side effects while still effectively treating the warts.
That's clever. So they're targeting the specific needs of people with HIV and avoiding the problems with traditional interferon treatments. But it makes you wonder, could this low-dose oral interferon work for other things too? I mean, if it's so effective for oral warts in people with HIV.
Now, there's a great question. It's definitely something to think about. Could it be effective for other types of HPV infections? Or even other viral infections altogether? We need more research, of course.
Yeah.
But the possibilities are exciting.
This is why we love doing these deep dives. It's all about making those connections and exploring the ripple effects of these scientific discoveries.
It's like we found this key that unlocks a whole new area of science. And who knows what we'll find there. That's what's so amazing about science. Every new discovery just leads to more questions, more paths to follow, and potentially even bigger breakthroughs.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today. But before we go, let's sum up the key takeaways for our listeners.
Sure. So we started by talking about oral warts in people with HIV.
Right. A condition that can be tough to treat and is often made worse by the very medications that help manage HIV.
And we introduced Veldona, this new low-dose oral interferon that's showing a lot of promise in those early clinical trials.
Right. Not only is it shrinking those warts, but it seems to be doing it safely.
And the upcoming clinical trial in Taiwan is going to be huge. It's going to give us so much more data on a larger, more diverse group of patients.
Plus, the FDA has already granted Veldona orphan drug designation, which is a big deal.
Definitely. It shows that the FDA believes Veldona could really meet an important need for the HIV community.
So what does all this mean for our listeners? It means there's real hope for people struggling with oral warts. Veldona could be a game changer, something that improves lives and maybe even changes how we think about treating HIV-related complications in general.
It just goes to show you the power of innovation and finding better solutions for people who really need them. But this is just the start. The Taiwan trial will be crucial. We'll be watching closely to see what happens.
We will. In the meantime, think about the bigger picture here. Could this low-dose oral interferon be the answer for other viral infections? Could it change how we approach boosting the immune system? It's a fascinating time for medical research, so stay curious. That's what we're all about here on The Deep Dive. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep diving deep into this incredible world around us. Until next time, stay curious, my friends.